Imagine working with all your blood and sweat, carrying your team on your shoulders, saving them from death every time, only to be rewarded with what? Expulsion, humiliation, and no respect. And they tell you, we don't need you. One sentence turned our hero's life upside down, but instead of falling apart, he decided to show them who they lost. They thought he was just a useless healer, but what will they do when his real power shows? He went from a weak follower to an unstoppable storm. Let's see what our hero will do after being kicked out of the team, and who he'll make regret it. Our anime starts with our hero being useless, a complete failure. Instead of people praising his smarts or morals, they all just think he's dumb. Our hero is standing alone in a corner holding a sign that says he wants to join any group of adventurers. Then a young girl named Narcina comes to him and says she wants him to join her, and the two of them become a team. And as soon as she says those words, everyone's shocked like a miracle just happened. No one believes it. They even call the girl crazy, or maybe she's just new in town and doesn't know what's going on. Narcina introduces herself as a martial arts expert and tells him she'll stand with him in any battle they enter. So Lost tells her he's just a healer, but before he finishes, a girl runs up to Narcina. She gets startled and asks who she is, and the girl says her name is Emeryist and she works at the Adventurers Guild. But that's not the point now. The point is Lost the Idiot, as they call him. He used to be a healer in a team called the Thunder Team, but he got kicked out because he only knows one healing spell, so he's considered useless. Even if multiple people need healing, he can't help with just one spell. She tells Narcina she's probably a new adventurer and doesn't have much money, so that's why she's just accepting anyone to team up with. But Narcina pulls out a pouch full of gold. Emeryist warns her to be careful, because most adventurers here are shady and might steal from her or take advantage of her. She needs to be cautious. Narcina thanks Emeryist, but Emeryist is waiting for her to ask for help finding a proper team, which she would charge a fee for. But Narcina tells her she already decided to join Lost and doesn't need her help. Then she and Lost go to Emeryist's office to register in the guild. Emeryist gives them a form and asks them to write their names on it. Narcina asks what the form is for, so Emeryist explains that it's for registering in the guild to get official missions, and if any conflict happens between them, they can come back to the guild for support. They both sign, and when Lost signs, Narcina spaces out and thinks to herself that she finally found Lost. Looks like Narcina already knew Lost from long ago, and what just happened wasn't a coincidence. After they finish, they don't waste time. Since Lost is older, he leads their team and tells her they'll head to the Martis Labyrinth. He plans to hunt monsters there, but he has no info about the monsters inside. No adventurer has explored it before. Narcina reminds him of Emeryst's warning earlier, that he should take her to the western labyrinths where the monsters are weaker because she's still a beginner. Lost remembers that clearly, but still follows his own plan and enters the labyrinth. Narcina tells him she'll stand in front in case any monsters appear, since she's the martial arts expert and he's the healer. Narcina enters, full of energy, and bam, takes down one monster after another with no mercy. Each one drops a gem, and Lost collects them. Narcina asks him how much the gems are worth so far. He tells her the monsters were weak, so the gems they got would barely pay for one night in an inn to rest. He tells her to earn more. They need to go deeper into the labyrinth. Maybe they'll find stronger monsters. Narcina agrees, and they walk deeper. Suddenly, Lost grabs her and tells her to be careful. He puts a stone on a tile on the ground. A trap opens. If she had stepped on it, she would have been dead. She says only thieves can detect traps, so how did he spot it? Lost tells her he used to be in an adventuring group before her, so he has some experience, nothing more. She believes him, and they keep going until they find a mid-level monster inside a low-level labyrinth. Lost is confused. Why is it here? Narcina tells him they can retreat if he wants, but he says her skills might let them beat it. That motivates her. She tells him if that's what he thinks, she'll go for it. She charges at the monster like lightning and hits its stomach, but nothing happens, like she hit a rock. The monster slams the ground. Narcina gets hurt and falls. It charges to finish her off, but Lost steps in at the last second and takes the monster down with his sword, saving Narcina. She's confused and suspicious, asks if he's sure he's just a healer. Lost says, like he told her, he used to be in an adventuring team, and when he left, he trained to rely on himself. She tells him what she just saw wasn't the level of someone who'd get kicked from a team. Lost changes the subject. When he sees her arm is injured, they stop so he can heal her. Then Lost takes the giant gem dropped by the defeated orc monster and tells Narcina it'll get them a lot of money. Narcina gets excited, and they agree to return to the labyrinth later to hunt more monsters and earn even more money. After that, they head to the guild and give all the gems to Emeryist. As soon as she sees them, she's surprised they gathered that many in one day alone. She's also mad at Lost for not listening to her and taking Narcina into dangerous labyrinths she warned about. That big gem came from a mid-level orc monster. She tells him mid-level labyrinths are super dangerous for both him and Narcina. He says they didn't go to a mid-level labyrinth, they were just surprised by the org in a low-level one. She believes him, and he's surprised she believed him that easily. She tells him other people complained earlier about finding strange things in the labyrinth, and the higher-ups are already investigating. So she has no reason not to believe him. After they leave, a senior guild member enters, upset. He thought Emrius placed Lost in a new team. Emrius tells him she didn't. Narcina insisted on joining Lost herself. Meanwhile, Lost and Narcina book 2 rooms at an inn using the money they earned, and each goes to rest. Narcina is happy she met Lost, and they had an amazing adventure together. Then we find out that when Narcina was younger, Lost was the one who healed her. Since then, she decided to grow up, train, and join his team to protect him the same way he protected her. That's why, once she found out he got kicked from his team, she rushed to the city to start a new one with him. But she's a little sad that he didn't recognize her. She comforts herself, thinking maybe she just grew up. Her face changed, and that's why he didn't recognize her. The next day, Lost dreams about the Thunder team on a day they were hunting the massive Hydra monster. One of the members fell and got poisoned by the Hydra, so Lost was trying to help her. Marcus, the team leader, ordered Lost to speed up the healing so the girl could get back and help them. But Lost told him his spell couldn't cure Hydra poison, only ease the pain a bit, and they should have brought an antidote. Marcus replied there's no way he'd pay for something so expensive and useless, especially since they had a healer. But clearly, he was useless, so Marcus ordered another girl in the team to do something with her magic. The girl created a massive fireball and hurled it at the Hydra, but it didn't affect it. Marcus said it was no use and ordered them to retreat. They ran quickly, and Lost helped the injured girl escape. When they returned, Marcus kicked Lost out in front of everyone, saying he was useless and the reason they failed against the Hydra. He said they should get rid of him and save money, and everyone agreed. Lost told them they failed because they stayed up late the night before and weren't prepared for the fight. But Marcus insisted and didn't change his mind. Lost was deeply hurt and joined the first group that asked him to join, but later found out they didn't want his help in missions. They were using him as bait, throwing him at monsters so they could attack. He suffered and got hurt badly because of what they did to him, so he left them and came out of the labyrinth, confused and upset. While walking, he saw a group of monsters, and a little girl was hiding in fear. Without thinking, he grabbed a stick from the ground and ran to fight the monsters, even though he didn't know how. One of the monsters hit him and he passed out. He didn't wake up until he heard the little girl's voice, happy and relieved, thanking him because without him, the city knights wouldn't have come to defeat the monsters and save her. When he noticed she had a wound on her hand, he used his healing spell and cured her. She was amazed. She'd never seen a healer before. Lost sat and talked to her, telling her what had happened to him. She felt really bad and started crying. She decided that when she grew up, she'd become a brave adventurer and go to the city to form a team with him, so he wouldn't be alone anymore. Her words touched Lost deeply, but he thought there was no way she'd become an adventurer. She came from a very rich family, and at most she'd become a doctor or an engineer. But because of what the girl said, Lost found hope again. He asked a trainer to help him learn more healing spells, but he didn't improve much in them, so he decided to train in sword fighting and combat skills, and he succeeded in defending himself many times. After he woke up, Narcina knocked and asked if he wanted to have breakfast together. When he agreed and they finished eating, they went back to the labyrinth, this time a mid-level one, to collect more gems and earn more money. They reached a room with a symbol on the floor used for teleportation. Narcina was amazed by the design and the room, saying maybe they could build one in the city to instantly travel to the labyrinth and make things easier. But she quickly took it back, remembering the monsters in the labyrinth that might get into the city if that symbol existed. But Lost reassured her, saying monsters couldn't use the room, and her idea was great. He wished they could really build one in the city. After that, they teleported from the room to the next level, the mid-level one with stronger monsters, the liches. Narcina tried to defeat them with her attacks, but nothing worked. Lost told her liches are transparent and immune to physical attacks. Narcina said she could use Piranha Force, a magical power that affects invisible monsters. Not everyone can use it, it needs intense training. But Narcina used it and defeated the monsters, collecting their gems. Lost healed her afterward. Then they went to Emrius and sold the gems. Every time she saw them, she got filled with joy, because the more gems adventurers bring, the higher her salary. That's why Emrius gave them high prices for their gems, so they'd always sell to her. After that, they took the money, went out, and celebrated in the city. They found 2 people fighting with a crowd around them. Narcina got curious and wanted to see what was going on. Lost told her that any dispute between adventurers had to be settled in that place. Then they went to a restaurant and ordered lots of food. Narcina noticed several very tall towers surrounding the city and asked Lost if he knew anything about them. Lost told her that once his curiosity pushed him to ask about them and their owner, but no one knew anything, not why they were built, not their purpose, or why they had no windows or doors. The topic became important to him, and he wished someone could answer his questions. Narcina told him it would have been better to build a wall around the city since it wasn't protected. After they finished eating, they returned to the inn. Narcina threw herself on the bed, feeling sad because she wished Lost would remember her. Meanwhile, Lost was sitting in his room thinking about her, but as a little girl, he thanked her. Because of her, he started a new life with Narcina. Then we see Marcus, the leader of the Thunder team, introducing a new girl named Lyra to the team, presenting her as the new healer who would help them finally defeat the Hydra monster they've been chasing for months. The next day, they arrive at the Hydra's location and Marcus stands to explain the plan. He assigns each of them a task and says he and Lyra the healer will be in the front and fight the monster. Lyra tells him she's just a healer and doesn't know anything about fighting. He tells her the team's former healer, Lost, used to fight with him in the front and all his attacks were useful. He even cut off 2 Hydra heads by himself. Lyra is shocked and asks how he risked his healer's life and let him fight with them. Marcus tells her he doesn't want to hear excuses. If she won't stand with him, then fine, she should stay put and only help when they need her. She agrees. Meanwhile, Narcina and Lost are at the guild selling some of the gems they collected. Emerius tells them that with this amount, they could buy a big house and use it as their base instead of living in an inn. Lost tells Narcina that the Thunder team used to have a shared house too, but they made him sleep in the storage room, and they even made him pay rent and refused to give him his full share, saying he's just a healer and his role isn't dangerous. Meanwhile, Marcus returns with another defeat by the Hydra, and this time the injuries are really bad. Lyra can't keep up. A girl in the Thunder team named Siberia tells Marcus she can't believe she's saying this, but Lost actually was helpful to the team. At least he cut off one of the Hydra's heads, and if he were with them, he could have cut off 2 more. Marcus says he still doesn't understand why Lost left. Siberia is shocked and yells at him, saying he was the one who kicked him out. Marcus says it's fine, he'll go to him now and ask him to return, and of course Lost won't say no because their team is so famous anyone would want to join. After a while, they leave and Lyra can't find them, so she looks around for them. Meanwhile, they've already arrived at the guild and met Lost. Marcus asks him to come back to the team, but Lost has pride and refuses. Marcus insists, saying he'll fire Lyra the useless healer and admits that after Lost left, he realized how talented and helpful he was. But Lost refuses again. Narcina arrives, and Emerius introduces her to Marcus, saying he's the leader of the Thunder team. Narcina stands in front of him, blocking him, saying he can't take Lost from her. He's now in her team, and she won't give him up. Marcus gets mad at her and tells her she's just a little girl, probably using Lost. He speaks to her very badly, so Lost gets furious, grabs his arm, and says if he talks like that to Narcina again or bothers her, he'll seriously regret it, him and his whole team. Then he lets him go and walks away. Marcus gets even angrier, yelling at the guild, asking Emerius to find him a powerful warrior who can help them hunt the Hydra that's driving him crazy. A huge adventurer wearing a mask shows up and asks Marcus if he's good enough. Marcus draws his sword, but Emerius tells him that fighting between adventurers isn't allowed in the guild. Marcus says it's just training, but the moment he attacks, the new adventurer knocks him down, making Marcus look terrible in front of everyone. To cover the embarrassment and his red face, Marcus says he was just holding back, but he likes the guy and accepts him into the team. Siberia asks if he really trusts someone whose face they can't even see and knows nothing about. Marcus says there's no other way to beat the Hydra. He goes and asks his name. The new adventurer says his name is Sheik. Later, Narcina and Lost go back to their room, but hear a knock. It's the hotel staff saying they have guests. So Lost and Narcina go meet the guests, Lyra and Amarina from Marcus's team. Amarina asks Lost for help because Marcus wants to fight the Hydra again tomorrow. He hasn't learned his lesson and refuses to buy the Hydra poison antidote, risking all their lives. She also tells him the Hydra still hasn't healed since Lost cut off its head. If he comes and helps them, it would be a favor they'd never forget. Lost tells her Marcus already came and asked him to return, but he refused and won't go back. Narcina asks Amarina why she still follows Marcus and helps him. Amarina says Marcus is her friend after all, and they've been together in the team for a long time. Narcina gets angry and tells her that Lost was in that team too, and they all abandoned him. And now she's here asking him to throw away his pride and help them. Amarina breaks down crying and says back then she was just a new adventurer who didn't understand anything. She was scared she'd get kicked from the only team that accepted her, so she couldn't stand up to Marcus and didn't want Lost to leave. Lyra says Amarina only came to apologize to Lost because when she was sick, she kept mumbling his name. So Lyra came with her to support her and help her apologize. Lost is touched and tells Amarina he's not mad at her, or Marcus, or the team. He just started a new life and he's happy now. He doesn't want to go back to his old team. Amarina accepts that, and her conscience is finally at peace after hearing he's not angry with her. When her mood improves, she asks for food and eats without a care. Then Lyra pulls Lost and Narcina aside to talk privately. Narcina asks if there's any way for her and Amarina to leave the team. Lyra says there's no other option. They have to stay in Marcus's team. Lost tells her she seems like a really good person, so he advises her to leave the team because Marcus will use her just like he used him. Then Lyra and Amarina return to their team's place and are surprised to find the new adventurer, Sheik. Lyra turns out to know him and asks what he's doing there. Sheik says he joined the team like her, and it's none of her business what he's doing. Lyra walks off, not caring about what he said. After that, Narcina goes with Lost to the Labyrinth they usually hunt monsters in. Narcina has gained experience and can now handle all monsters, whether in mid or low levels. After finishing, Lost notices she's hungry, so they take a break and open the bag the innkeeper packed with food. She loves Lost like a son. Narcina tells Lost she's really bored of this labyrinth and wants to try other places and face different monsters. He tells her to be thankful. If her leader was Marcus, they'd be fighting the Hydra every day, getting beaten up and returning with nothing. Narcina asks Lost to tell her more about the Hydra monster they've been talking about. She's curious. Lost explains the Hydra is a massive monster with multiple heads and thick skin immune to magic attacks, not to mention its deadly poison. The only thing adventurers could do was create an antidote for its poison to take on their missions, but the problem is, it's quite expensive. After hearing all that, Narcina asks what Marcus and his team are doing now with that dangerous monster. Lost says that although Marcus is selfish and seems a bit dumb, he's a strong leader and can deal with the Hydra and knows when to retreat. Besides, Siberia is fast and can distract the monster well. Amarina's magic attacks will help, and there's the new adventurer and Lyra who'll heal them if needed. Meanwhile, the Thunder team stands before the Hydra. Marcus runs up and cuts off one of its heads. Sheik is in front with him too, but Sheik refuses to cut the remaining heads. He tells Marcus he's the leader, and if he wants the credit, he should finish the Hydra himself. Marcus likes the idea, but foolishly runs straight toward the Hydra's face, and the Hydra flings him aside. Lyra finishes healing Siberia, and Siberia runs left and right to distract the monster. Amarina attacks with her magic, and the monster gets confused. Marcus sneaks in and cuts off another head. But once the Hydra notices Amarina's spells, it hurls a massive rock at her. She gets hit, falls, and is so scared she passes out. Black mist starts coming out of Amarina's body. Marcus tells them it's because of her fear, and the Hydra absorbs it to boost its power. The mist is filled with magic mana, and as soon as the monster absorbs it, all its heads regrow and lengthen, its strength increases, and its skin becomes tougher. When Marcus rushes to cut off another head, his sword breaks because of the Hydra's tough skin. He falls to the ground. He's next to be eaten by the Hydra, but Lost arrives just in time and cuts off one of the Hydra's heads, with Narcina by his side. The two of them attack the monster and rescue Marcus. Then Lost hurries to heal Amarina because Lyra can't do it. He uses a new healing method, casting multiple spells at once on Amarina. But Lyra tells him this method won't work, as not everyone can use it. But she's shocked when Amarina starts getting better. Lost's method works. When Amarina wakes up, she thanks him deeply for coming to help. Lyra stays beside her as she falls asleep from the pain. Lost now acts as the leader and asks who will fight in the front lines with him. Everyone is scared, even Marcus, who says his sword is broken now. But Sheik agrees to stand with Lost and Narcina in front, and they go to finish the Hydra. Marcus is surprised Sheik's sword didn't break like his. Lyra tells him Sheik's sword is an ancient magical one. It doesn't break easily. The bigger surprise is how Lost handles the Hydra like a pro adventurer, better than all of them. But in the middle of it, the Hydra poisons Narcina. She falls and doesn't get up. Lost panics, and everyone steps back, watching the Hydra challenge Lost to come save Narcina. They're all confused. Lyra tells them when monsters absorb mana, they don't just get stronger, they get smarter and more cunning too. When Lost walks toward the Hydra alone, he doesn't make it. He collapses before reaching Narcina. Sheik tries to help but is stunned when he sees Lost rise, glowing with a blue light. He grabs his sword and at lightning speed slices the Hydra in half, then faints again. He only wakes to Narcina's voice. Everyone is relieved to see he's still alive, but he doesn't remember what happened and is surprised he was the one who defeated the Hydra alone. Marcus is thrilled they finally defeated the Hydra and tries to tempt Lost by saying they'll split the money between the three of them. Lost is confused and says there are more than three. Marcus says he and Siberia will take their share because the two new ones didn't really do anything, and Narcina is part of his team so they don't want her. Lost asks about Amarina, and Marcus says she's the reason the Hydra got stronger and dragged them all into trouble. He adds she might be dead already, and maybe they'll just sell her off to anyone willing to buy. At that moment, Narcina does what should have been done long ago. She slaps him for what he said. He starts yelling, saying fights between adventurers are banned and he'll report her to the guild and she'll get kicked out. He asks if everyone witnessed what happened. Everyone says they didn't see anything, except Siberia, who says she saw and will file the report with him. But Sheik says if that's the case, they'll also report the human trafficking they plan to do with Amarina. He asks if anyone will witness with him, and everyone does, except Siberia. So they tie up Marcus and Siberia and return to the guild. There, Sheik reveals his identity and face, telling them he's a high-ranking guild member who came to the city because of the complaints to investigate and ended up with their group. He declares Marcus and Siberia permanently banned from the guild. But Lost, being kind-hearted, tells Sheik he knows Marcus and Siberia are selfish, but since they were kids, they've dreamed of becoming adventurers. Even if they're greedy, maybe they deserve a second chance. Sheik agrees and tells Marcus and Siberia to leave the city and never come back, and live their lives however they want. After that, Lost and Narcina meet up with Sheik, Lyra, and Amarina because Sheik and Lyra decided to form a team together and included Amarina after her team abandoned her. Once Lost confirms Amarina feels comfortable in her new team, he feels relieved and walks off with Narcina. Narcina asks what they'll do now, go to the Labyrinth like always or get breakfast. He tells her they need to stop by the guild first. She says that's unusual for him to go to the guild early like this. He says they forgot to sell the gems they got from the Hydra, so they need to sell them first. He also has an idea circling in his head that they should start accepting guild missions instead of just hunting monsters and relying on gems, because those missions will keep them active in the guild and give Narcina a lot of experience as a beginner. At first, Narcina doesn't understand what missions mean, but when Lost explains, she understands and agrees. They head to the guild, but the moment they enter, everyone stares at them and talks about them. At first, Lost is confused, then remembers they just beat the Hydra yesterday, so it's natural they're being talked about. He doesn't pay it much attention, but warns Narcina to be very careful. Everyone's eyes are probably on their gem pouch and might try to steal it. He and Narcina stand to the side, and a man with his team approaches and says he wants to talk to Lost. He sends his team away to speak privately. Narcina says that since he sent his team away, he's probably not here to steal gems. The man asks Lost if he remembers him. Lost says he does. His name is Marnil. Marnil stays quiet for a moment, then suddenly breaks down and begs Lost to forgive him for calling him Lost the Fool. He says he was wrong for letting Marcus control him. And when Lost asked for help, no one helped, because they were all afraid of Marcus, and no one dared to stand against him. Narcina steps in front of Marnil and tells him there's no way Lost can forgive them after everything they did to him. Marnil asks what he can do to earn forgiveness. She says he should kneel for 3 days straight and beg Lost to forgive him. Maybe then he'll consider it. But Lost stops her and says people will think he's the cruel one. He tells Marnil he's not angry at them and doesn't mind the nickname Lost the Fool. As for the Hydra, he doesn't even remember how it died. Marnil feels relieved hearing that and leaves. Lost goes to give the gems to Emerist. She's stunned by the amount and says the gem value increased tenfold after what happened. Lost asks her what happened. She explains that while they were fighting the Hydra, the monster absorbed energy leaking from the Labyrinth, which greatly boosted its strength, so the gem value spiked. Lost says that energy leak must be the reason for the strange things happening in the Labyrinth, and they need to report it and find a solution quickly. Mr. Hansel, the guild's operations head, who always looks strict and never smiles, comes and takes them to his office, asking what complaint they want to file. Lost tells him that dangerous monsters are showing up in low-level zones, and that could be a threat to beginner adventurers. Mr. Hansel says the guild is busy with 100 other things, and what they're talking about is trivial. He says any adventurer should be ready for anything, and if he's scared, he should just leave the city and stop bothering them. Narcina gets very upset with how he talks to them and complains to Emerist. Emerist tells them that's just how Mr. Hansel is and asks them to understand. He deals with all the guild's problems because he practically runs everything. Lost asks her about Mr. Mist, the guild master. She whispers, so no one hears, that Mr. Mist is very old now and stays in his office without moving. He dumped all responsibilities on Mr. Hansel, and no one really knows what he does. She hands them a sheet with available missions to pick one and carry it out. They read through the missions and find them all silly. One person needs guards in case she falls into a lake. Another wants someone to walk with him for show in town. All of them are super boring until they spot a mission to hunt the phoenix. Narcina gets excited and tells Emerist they accept it. Emerist says there's no way they'll be allowed to take it. The phoenix isn't something martial arts or a healer can defeat. Lost agrees and tells Narcina that the phoenix is a bird and they need someone with ranged attacks. Their skills won't work. Emerist says at least least they need a second healer, a fighter, and a mage. Lost thinks for a moment and remembers Sheik, Lyra, and Amarina. He tells her they'll take the mission and rushes to talk to them and ask what they think. They agree, and Lyra tells Sheik this way they can observe Lost, since they want to uncover the secret behind his abilities. Then Lost and Narcina walk around the city, when suddenly a girl attacks Narcina. Narcina fights back, but then realizes it's Ralma, her father's friend. She asks what she's doing here. Ralma says she came to bring her back home after she ran away. When Lost joins Narcina, we learn he also knows Ralma. She used to be his trainer after he left the Thunder team. They all go to a restaurant and talk. Narcina refuses to go back home and says she wants to continue her life as an adventurer. Ralma tells her that her dad is very worried. She left without telling anyone. Narcina says she didn't run away. She was just in a hurry and left a letter to reassure them. When she reads what she wrote, everyone is shocked. It sounded more worrying. She wrote that she was leaving home and moving to another city to form a team with a stranger. When Ralma sees Narcina won't leave Lost, she does her a huge favor she'll never forget and tells her she'll convince her dad to let her stay with Lost and live as an adventurer because her dad only wants her to be happy. They're thrilled, and afterward they go and meet up in front of the inn with Sheik, Lyra, and Amarina to go hunt the monster together. They arrive at the same labyrinth, but this time they descend to a very difficult level to face the Phoenix monster. They use the teleportation chamber and reach the monster's location, but see nothing. Narcina says she expected to see the Phoenix right away after entering the hard level, but they tell her that a small room like this can't hold such a huge creature. Phoenix monsters need a very wide space that doesn't restrict their flying, so they keep walking, searching for a wide area in the labyrinth, because that must be the monster's location. Eventually, they find a place that matches the description and even find burnt remains, confirming it's the monster's den. Lyra fires them up, saying no adventurer has ever stepped in here before, so they'll find treasure and earn lots of money, plus the Phoenix gem itself. Lost picks up a stone and throws it into the space to lure the Phoenix. As soon as he does, a portal forms and a fireball shoots out, signaling the monster's arrival. Meanwhile, we see Ralma entering the guild. Emerist, seeing her, hurries to try and recruit her into a team, hoping to profit off her. Noticing her fancy and rare outfit, she's sure Ralma is rich and a skilled adventurer. Ralma, however, is annoyed by Emerist's insistence and asks her to move away. She's not here to join a team. She's here to see Mr. Mist, the guild master. Emerist asks if she has an appointment with the guild master. Ralma says no. Emerist then asks if she's his relative or daughter. Ralma says no again. Emerist apologizes and says she can't allow her to meet the guild master. She might hurt or even kill him. Ralma says if that's the case, she'll get angry and use her powers, which she didn't want to do. Emerist gets scared but still refuses to let her in, until Mr. Hansel arrives and tells Emerist it's fine. Ralma is very famous and even the guild master knows her. Hansel takes Ralma to his office but doesn't let her meet the guild master until she explains why she's here. Ralma asks him about the problems she heard about in the labyrinth. Hansel tells her he only just heard about it yesterday from an adventurer, but they're too busy and the problem is very trivial to him. Ralma says this issue can't be trivial. There's mana leaking from the labyrinth, mutating monsters, and that could end in a labyrinth uprising, which everyone should be worried about. She also says she's uneasy about the towers surrounding the city from all sides and asks Hansel about their purpose. He tells her he knows nothing about the towers. No one in the city does. They're just ordinary towers built around the city. But Ralma doesn't believe that. She becomes even more suspicious. Meanwhile, in the labyrinth, Lost and Narcina try to hunt the Phoenix, but it's flying above them. They can't even get close. Keeps shooting fireballs at them, and all they can do is dodge. Lost says they should have brought a bow and arrow instead of swords. This way, they won't be able to hunt it even in 100 years. They hide from the monster until it descends, but it takes too long, and the fire in the area is sucking the oxygen away. Lyra tells them they need to act fast or soon they won't be able to breathe. Sheik comes up with a plan. Amarina will create a water arrow with her magic and shoot the Phoenix's wings so it falls. Then Sheik can use his sword to finish it off. Amarina prepares the spell just like Sheik said, forms a water arrow, and throws it at the Phoenix. The monster can't fly and begins to descend. Sheik stabs the monster, injuring and weakening it. It flies to a higher spot to escape. Lost tells them this is a chance to defeat it if they keep attacking the same way. But once the Phoenix rests, it absorbs the mana around, just like the Hydra did, and transforms into a super Phoenix. Its fire grows hotter and its body grows bigger. Amarina remembers what happened with the Hydra and becomes terrified it'll happen again with the Phoenix. Lyra notices Amarina's fear and tries to reassure her, telling her to step away until she calms down. But Amarina says she can't move her legs. Then the Phoenix throws a giant fireball at them. Lyra tries to pull Amarina away but fails. Sheik arrives and slices the fireball in half with his sword, protecting them. When Amarina sees Sheik saved her, she trusts them deeply and feels she must return the favor. She stands and promises to help, but she'll need some time and they must stall the Phoenix, because she can't cast 2 big spells in a row. They trust her too, and start distracting the Phoenix. Meanwhile, Ralma doesn't get anywhere with Hansel. He won't let her meet Mr. Mist. So she heads to the towers and uses her magic power to try to open and investigate them. All she senses is a strange energy radiating from the place, and becomes sure these towers aren't here by chance, that there's something behind them. Back in the labyrinth, everyone's distracting the Phoenix. Narcina keeps jumping around, hitting it, but her attacks don't work. Instead, her hand gets burned. Enough time passes, and Amarina now casts a massive ice arrow. Everyone cheers her on. It's a smart idea. As soon as she throws it, the Phoenix is heavily affected. But Sheik can't stab its heart. Narcina leaps from above the Phoenix, knocking it to the ground. Lost then places his sword in the Phoenix's head. It dies. They succeed in collecting the Phoenix gem with Amarina's help, and when they all thank her, she starts crying. Afterward, they go to a famous restaurant in the city to celebrate their victory. There, they find Ralma, who's not fully conscious, rambling nonsense. In the middle of it, she casually says Narcina belongs to a very rich and well-known family, and when everyone hears the name, they're stunned, except Lost. His shock is double, because he remembers the little girl he once helped, who came from a wrecked carriage bearing the same family name. He realizes Narcina is that same child, the reason he started a new life. Finally, we see Hansel going to Mr. Mist and telling him 2 awakenings have occurred in a row, and the situation is becoming dangerous. After that, Lost goes with Narcina to sell the gems they got from the Phoenix, but Narcina is surprised by the small pouch of money and tells Emerist she tricked them. She told them it was a dangerous mission with a huge reward, and now she hands them a pouch with just a few coins. Emerist speaks coldly and tells Narcina to look inside the pouch before saying anything. As soon as Narcina opens it, her eyes sparkle. It's filled with gold coins. Emerist tells her that if she had given them their reward in copper or silver, they'd be carrying a huge sack and would surely get robbed. That's why she made it gold coins instead. She also tells them that no one in the guild would have given them gold like that. Only her. Lost gets the point, gives her a couple of coins, and walks away. After that, they go have breakfast together. Narcina suggests they use the money to buy a house instead of wasting it on an inn. While saying that, she starts imagining their happy life together until Lost surprises her by saying he doesn't agree. It's better for them to save their money for now. Also, half the money will go to Sheik, and the rest because they helped with the Phoenix battle. Narcina feels a little upset. Then she and Lost meet up with Amarina, Lyra, and Sheik to celebrate, since they decided to form a new team together. During the gathering, Amarina falls asleep, so Lyra says she'll take her to her room and be back. She also whispers to Sheik that this is his chance to get closer to Lost, like he wanted. Narcina tells Lyra she'll go with her. She wants to talk to her about something important. She tells her about Lost and says she suspects he hates her now after learning the truth. Lyra says that's impossible. Lost cares about her a lot, and she should listen to her because she's an expert in this stuff. Narcina asks her to share her own experience and love stories. Lyra tells her that long ago, she and Sheik were in the same team, so it wasn't their first time together in Marcus's team or anything. Once, Sheik insisted on adding a guy to their team, someone she was against. That guy ended up bothering her badly, so she beat him up and tied him down. When Sheik found out, he kicked the guy out of town. He was really upset with himself and couldn't forgive himself because he'd insisted on bringing him, and it put Lyra in a bad spot. At the time, he liked her a lot, so he decided to leave the team and the city. He couldn't face her or even look her in the eyes. Turns out Sheik is telling the exact same story to Lost, since they've grown close and started opening up to each other. Lyra says she was never mad at Sheik. She loved him back then, but he was stupid and left without even checking on her. Still, she's happy fate brought them back together in the same team. Sheik tells Lost that when he saw Lyra again, he came up with any excuse to form a team with her again. He didn't want to let her go. Then Lost tells Sheik about his story with Narcina and says he needs to confirm something really important. At that moment, Emerist shows up holding an envelope with Narcina's info. She talks to Lost and tells him she contacted Narcina's father, and from what he said, it seems like he's okay with her staying an adventurer. Lost feels a bit better and tells Sheik that if Narcina's dad hadn't agreed, he would have sent Narcina back home until she convinced them. Then, once they agreed, he would have accepted forming a team with her. Still, he's confused. How could a father from such a wealthy family agree to let his daughter become an adventurer and live far away? Sheik tells him it's happened before. They've had adventurers from big families before. Lost says that when he met Narcina as a child, her hair was blonde, but now it's naturally blue, and that's why he didn't recognize her. He's really confused because no one wakes wakes up with blue hair all of a sudden. Sheik tells him that's probably why her dad agreed. Most people who wake up and find their hair changed like that end up dying young. So her father likely wants her to live her dreams before that happens. At the same time, Narsina is telling the girls the same story about her hair, and they all freak out at once. Amarina even wakes up. After they finish talking, all the girls go downstairs and keep pushing Lyra forward. Lyra finally builds up the courage and tells Sheik she wants to talk to him alone about something important. They go sit together while the girls all eavesdrop from behind the door. Lyra speaks hesitantly and tells Sheik she likes him and wants to spend the rest of her life with him. At first, Sheik doesn't understand and thinks she means she likes him as a fighter and wants to stay in his team forever. Lyra gets frustrated by his cluelessness. He's making her repeat herself, so she spells it out clearly. She likes him personally and wants to marry him. Sheik gets flustered, his face turning all shades, and all he says is that he'll think about it. Strangely, Lyra isn't upset. Just the fact that he'll think about it is a miracle in itself. The next day, a new team, Not Lost and Narsina, is inside the labyrinth but trapped by org monsters they weren't expecting, since the orgs were outside their original level. They start thinking of what to do, but find no solution except sacrificing Keith, the young boy with them, because he's the weakest. They escape, leaving Keith surrounded by the orgs. Lost is sitting with Lyra and Sheik, while Narsina sits with Amarina, spacing out as she stares at Lost, because he asked to talk to her yesterday. When Lyra notices her distracted, she asks Lost what he's going to say and when, but Lost refuses to answer because he doesn't even know himself. Lyra tells him to hurry up, because Narsina's so distracted she's eating everything in front of her, and soon she might eat them too. When Lost finally decides to talk to Narsina, they're surprised by Keith opening the restaurant door, injured and asking for help. They all worry about him, and Nesha, the daughter of the innkeeper, recognizes him and asks them to heal him. Narsina gets curious and asks the innkeeper about Nesha's relation to Keith. The innkeeper tells them Nesha and Keith have been friends for a long time. He's an orphan and she used to feed and care for him like a brother. When Lost hears what happened to Keith, he gets very upset, especially because the same team that threw Keith to the orgs is the same team that once threw him to monsters as bait. He goes and asks for Marnell's help. They catch the group, tie them up, and throw them on the ground. Marnell and Lost threaten that if any of them is ever seen in the city again, it'll be their last day alive. Then a staff member tells them what they're doing is forbidden in the guild. Mr. Hansel, always stern, tells Lost he's a hypocrite. He always acted like he didn't want to report anyone to the guild, pretending to be kind and forgiving, but in truth, he punishes them himself. Hansel decides to exile all of them from the city. Marnell and the adventurers who helped Lost are frustrated with Hansel's attitude. Lost asks Mr. Hansel for a private word. Hansel agrees and tells him to come alone to his office. Lost enters and tells Hansel about what the team did to Keith, all because they ignored his warnings and didn't act on the issues in the labyrinth. Hansel tells him he already told him many times before, if he doesn't like it here, he should find another city. But Lost refuses and says there must be another way, a compromise. Hansel gets annoyed and tells Lost they've tried everything and nothing can be done about the labyrinth. Just when Lost starts to lose hope, Hansel surprisingly asks if Lost doesn't remember him. He shows his wounded hand and Lost recognizes the scar. It reminds him of his old friend. His name is Nogzum, and we learn that Lost and Nogzum were in the same team a long time ago. Nogzum was treated very badly, used to carry bags, insulted constantly, and talked to like garbage. One time, Lost went to help him carry bags, but Nogzum snapped at him, thinking he was better than Lost and saw him as a weak failure, someone he never wanted to be like. But Lost still treated him kindly and never pressured him. That night, the team gathered around the fire, except Nogzum and Lost, who were left to keep watch. Nogzum sat in the cold, looking pitiful. After everyone fell asleep, Lost went and woke Nogzum, telling him he saw goblins moving around them. Nogzum got worried and rushed to wake the team. When the team wakes up, they ask Lost how many goblins there are, but there are too many to count. The leader decides to sacrifice Lost and Nogzum, throwing them at the goblins while they escape. Lost tells Nogzum they have to be brave and face the goblins together. They become close friends and manage to escape and hide from the goblins surrounding them. Later, they hear the screams of their former teammates, being eaten by goblins, and Nogzum is happy because they got what they deserved. But Lost is the only one sad about them. Nogzum tells him they shouldn't waste time and need to run fast. But on the way, Nogzum collapses, his hand injury too severe. He tells Lost to run because the goblins are coming and won't spare him. At least one of them should survive. But Lost refuses, insisting on healing Nogzum and won't leave. Once healed, Nogzum is stunned by Lost's kindness and tells him that anyone else would have left. That's human nature. But Lost replies not all all humans are the same. Someone saved him once when he was little and taught him that principle. After that, they return to the city, each going their own way. Nogzum finds an old man who helps him and gives him missions to complete. That old man turns out to be Mr. Mist, the guild master. Thanks to him, Nogzum reached his current position. After they reflect on the past, Nogzum tells Lost to leave the city. That's the only way he can repay the favor Lost did for him. After Lost leaves Nogzum's office, Emeryist comes to speak with him. She gives him a personal job she'll pay for from her own money, hunting the monsters that have started leaving the labyrinth. It's becoming very dangerous and people might get hurt. Lost tells Narcina about the job, and she agrees to go with him. They go to tell Lyra and Sheik and find them training Keith and the young adventurers on how to hold a sword. Narcina joins them and teaches martial arts so they don't end up like Keith. Later, we see Hansel holding a very important letter sent from the Prime Minister of the Empire to Mr. Mist. When Mr. Mist opens it, he learns that the letter says they must keep a close eye on Narcina. Hansel remembers that Narcina is the girl with Lost, so he asks Mr. Mist why. Mist tells him that anyone whose hair turns blue is the chosen one, the one who will save them from the coming disaster. But sadly, it won't happen unless Narcina sacrifices herself, just as written in the legend. After Lost gathers the team, they head to the location Emeryus described, where monsters are heading to attack the city. When they arrive, they find a huge, strange number of monsters. Sheik offers a plan. They move behind the hill so they can get ahead of the monsters and attack them by surprise. Lost agrees to the plan, and they walk around the hill until they find a broken carriage, which turns out to be the same one Narcina came in as a child, where she first met Lost in this very spot. It brings all the memories rushing back. They all stand waiting for the monsters, and once they appear, they attack. Narcina remembers herself as a crying child surrounded by monsters, but now she's living her dream, able to fight and defeat the creatures that once scared her. They manage to defeat all the monsters there and collect a pouch filled with massive gems. But then they feel a strong earthquake and rush back to the city to check on everyone. The first person they visit is the innkeeper, Mrs. Mary, who reassures them that everything's fine, just a few broken things. They feel relieved, but then someone from Marnell's team arrives in a panic, asking Lost to quickly come to the city square because Marnell urgently needs him. Without hesitation, Lost and Narcina run to the square and find Marnell waiting on the side. He tells them something dangerous has happened. There's a huge number of monsters at the city gates about to attack. He asks Lost for help, saying he and his team can't handle it alone. Lost, of course, agrees, and they charge at all the monsters, which turn out to be a massive horde. As soon as they defeat the biggest monster among them, it speaks before dying, saying it will have revenge, they'll regret what they did, and they'll all die. Everyone is left in shock. It's the first time they've ever heard a monster speak, something that's never happened before. Sheik tells them it must be because the monsters mutated and absorbed a huge amount of mana. But before they can rest, they see even more monsters approaching from afar to attack the city again. Marnell says this can't go on. They're not enough to stop them all alone. Lost suggests they ask the other adventurers for help. They must catch them before they flee the city. They rush to the guild, but find a massive line of adventurers holding money in their hands. They read the guild's notice. It says the guild is calling for all adventurers to help defend the city from monster attacks, and in return, they'll receive a massive payment, more money than they ever dreamed of. But most adventurers just take the money and run away, so the plan isn't working. Ralma arrives with Emeryist and they talk to Lost and the team, telling them the city is in danger. What's happening is called a Labyrinth uprising. They suggest going to the library to read more and agree on a solution. Everyone gathers at the library. Emeryist opens a book, reads a bit, and tells them this happens when there's a massive surplus of magical power in the labyrinth. Monsters are born and forced out. To stop it, they must defeat them all, so the power returns to the labyrinth, forcing it to create normal monsters again. But the info still isn't enough. Ralma says this happened 100 years ago, so they'll find more answers in the capital's library or the one in the guild. Later, they walk out and see Marnell reinforcing the city, gathering wood and materials to block the gates and slow the monsters from getting in. Keith shows up in battle gear with his friends, asking Marnell to let them join the team to fight. But Marnell strongly refuses, saying Keith hasn't trained enough and could get hurt. Keith tells him this is his city, and he has the right to defend it. So Marnell asks him to help with support. He should ask Mrs. Mary to prepare lots of food and send it to the city square for the warriors to eat before battle. Keith agrees and leaves. Lost tells Marnell that what he did was right. Keith shouldn't be fighting at his age. After that, they all gather at the city gates. When the monsters get close, each of them takes a group and defeats them. But once they're done, another wave of monsters approaches. They're exhausted, but they're forced to keep going. Luckily, a very famous adventurer named Ronaldo appears. He came specifically to help. Ronaldo is a renowned adventurer and teacher. He taught both Narcina and Lost how to use swords. He has a powerful magical sword and swiftly defeats a large number of monsters in no time. Mr. Hansel also shows up and asks Ralma to come with him because Mist wants to see her. Ralma agrees and takes Lost with her since he insists on going. He has things he wants to say to Mist, but she warns him not to do anything that might hurt Mist and to control himself. When they reach the guild master's room, they're shocked to discover Mist isn't human. He's one of the elder elves. Ralma attacks immediately, summoning a giant fireball to burn him, but he blocks her spell and asks her to calm down and treat her old master with respect. When Ralma notices that Lost and Narcina are shocked, she tells them that Mist is her old master, the one who made her the strongest adventurer in the world because he's a wise elf who knows every kind of magic. Hansel arrives and greets Mist with great respect, so Mist tells her to learn a little from Hansel. Then they all sit at the meeting table, and before anyone speaks, Ralma says she already knows everything about the uprising, and she also knows that they expected what would happen but didn't warn the people. On top of that, they bring in tons of adventurers just to have them risk their lives in the city. Lost is shocked by their selfishness and asks Hansel how he could do that. Hansel says they knew the uprising would happen, but not when. Maybe in a day, a month, or a year. And they couldn't just tell people something was going to happen without knowing the time, so they stayed silent and kept looking for a better solution. Ralma tells them it's not just them who knew, even the Empire knew. They decided to sacrifice their city before the monsters could reach the Empire. Then Mr. Mist speaks and tells Ralma that now that everything is out in the open, he'll get straight to the point. He wants her body, which holds the greatest power in the world, so he can protect the city. Ralma asks him what she'll get in return. He tells her he'll protect the city by entering the Labyrinth and defeating the Labyrinth Lord. That will drain the monster's strength and end the uprising forever. Lost tells them that's impossible. No one knows where the Labyrinth Lord is. Hansel says they've been searching very hard recently and believe they've figured out the location. Ralma agrees and leaves Mist's office. She goes to a room in the guild with no door, but opens it using her magic and disappears inside. At that moment, a barrier forms from that place and covers the entire city, stopping the monsters from entering. Lost tells Narcina this kind of barrier is extremely powerful and will protect the city well. Then he goes to tell Sheik and his team what happened, but they're interrupted by the appearance of a griffin, a monster of unbelievable power. The griffin attacks the barrier, trying to break through. Lost notices the barrier weakening, meaning it's pulling more energy from Ralma, and if the barrier breaks, Ralma will die. He tells them he's going out to hunt the monster to save Ralma. Everyone joins him, and they go outside the barrier and first clear all the goblin monsters in front of them. But their numbers are huge. Ronaldo tells them to handle those monsters while he goes to defeat the griffin. He's dreamed of doing it for a long time. As soon as Ronaldo leaves, they're surprised by an even stronger monster, one that looks like a wolf and is as fast as lightning. It attacks them with insane speed. They don't even get to see it. When Lost tries to help, the monster slashes his hand. It's almost torn off. Lyra kneels beside him, trying to heal him, but the monster knocks her away. Only Narcina is left. When she sees Lost lying on the ground, she snaps. The Marana energy bursts from her, and she charges at the monster. She's the only one who can hurt it, but she quickly tires and can't continue. The monster injures her and slams her into the ground. Still, Narcina smiles and tells the monster the plan went just the way she wanted. Then, suddenly, Lost attacks the monster at incredible speed and drives his sword into its heart. The monster can't defend because he's caught off guard. We learn that right after Lost fell, he quickly healed himself and signaled Narcina to attack to distract the monster while he recovered and came back to kill it. But Narcina faints from exhaustion. She later wakes up to their voices and asks what happened, relieved to find everyone okay. Then she remembers Ronaldo and the griffin. Ronaldo arrives, holding the giant griffin gem, and reassures her that he hunted it down alone. She's happy and relieved. Lost tells them they should go rest a bit at Mary's Inn while Mist and Hansel deal with the Labyrinth Lord. But suddenly, Hansel steps out from a magic portal, grabs Narcina, and vanishes. When Lost fails to save Narcina, he sits with his team to figure out a solution. Ronaldo tells them there's something they're missing. Narcina has blue hair, just like the girl from the story of the Sleeping Princess and the Beast. In that story, a monster appears every 200 years, along with a hero chosen from among all adventurers, the only one able to defeat it. It's the same story Mist is telling Narcina now, but there are parts they never knew from the original tale. The hero can't actually kill the beast like everyone believes. No, when the monster is hit, it takes about 200 years to recover its power and reshape into a new body. Narcina asks about the hero. Why hasn't he appeared yet? Mist tells her that's the problem. No hero has appeared. That's why they're forced to use her. She is the sleeping princess from the story, the one who can put the monster into a deep slumber, but only if the beast swallows her, just like the legend says. Ronaldo tells them he's sure Mist and Hansel have known exactly when the monster would appear for a long time, but chose not to tell anyone. That means they planned to kidnap Narcina and do this all along. They must have known the monster would show up in their city's labyrinth, since it appears in a different labyrinth every 200 years, and its timing can be predicted. Mist speaks to Narcina, who asks if her father knew about this. Mist says her father did know. That's why he agreed to let her become an adventurer and live her life before she dies. She asks if they knew and planned everything, why didn't they warn the people? Mist tells her it was the Chancellor's order. When the monsters come out of the labyrinth, they'll only find the nearest city to attack. Once that city is destroyed, the Chancellor will step in and gather the wealthy and noble families to find a solution. Then, he'll be their leader and control them in the name of war. He's also the one who ordered that no wall be built around the city. But Mist doesn't agree with all the Chancellor's decisions. He decided long ago to build the giant towers so they could use the light barrier to protect the city from the monsters. He plans to stop this madness himself, no matter who lives or dies. Even if it costs him his life, he'll sacrifice it to end the monster. After their conversation, Mist and Hansel take Narcina to the teleportation room and reach the deepest point of the labyrinth, where the great monster is. Meanwhile, Lost and his friends decide to rescue Narcina and sit down to figure out how to reach her. Lyra suggests they travel to the deepest point of the labyrinth and search for her. They agree and head to the teleportation chamber inside the labyrinth. Ronaldo tells them to hurry before the second monster wave begins. They arrive and teleport to the deepest part of the labyrinth. Narcina stands in shock. She's never seen anything like this monster before. It's the Red Beast, one of the most powerful creatures in the labyrinth. Lost and the team arrive at the same time. As soon as Lost sees Narcina, he runs to her, but she warns him about the Red Beast behind her. The moment he sees it charging at her, his fear for her triggers a strange power, just like the one that appeared during the Hydra fight, and he takes down 3 of the red monsters by himself with no help. Mist hands Narcina to Lost and tells him he'd been waiting for him to arrive. For their sake, he'll change the plan now. He won't sacrifice Narcina if they all unite to defeat the Labyrinth Lord. Mist couldn't do it alone. He's just an old man. They agree and go with Mist, not trusting him completely, but they have no other option. They reach the place Mist points to. He says the Labyrinth Lord is here. It draws huge magical power from the labyrinth to take the form of a monster. As they reach a certain point, a portal appears and from it emerges a flying creature they call the Guardian. They all get ready to fight. Amarina binds it with magic. Sheik and Lost go in to break its wings. Narcina leaps from behind them, striking the Guardian in the spot where its core is. The Guardian explodes and dies. Then, the portal it came from turns black and a hand comes out, piercing through Hansel's body and lifting him into the air. A voice echoes from the portal, mocking Mist for returning after all these years only to fail again. It warns Mist, telling him to surrender and offer his body to be possessed. Since he'll die anyway, at least his name will be remembered. Mist, of course, refuses and warns everyone not to accept that offer. But sadly, the choice isn't his, because even though Mist refuses, the Labyrinth Lord takes control of him, reshaping himself in Mist's body. He's reborn and exits the labyrinth, standing above the city. From beneath the ground, tree-like roots rise and press down on the barrier, trying to break it. Lost and the team also manage to exit the labyrinth, and they see what's happening, frozen in disbelief, not knowing what to do. Ralma's power is nearly depleted because the Labyrinth Lord is putting huge pressure on her, and everyone in the city starts to lose hope again due to the increasing number of monsters surrounding it. The second wave of the uprising begins, and the city's children run to Marnil in fear. Marnil tries to reassure them, telling them he won't abandon them. Meanwhile, Lost tries to heal Hansel, but Hansel says this isn't the time. He should save his strength for the upcoming war, and says he deserves to die. But before that happens, he asks Lost to forgive Master Mist for what he did, saying Mist's only goal was to defeat the monster, and to forgive him too for kidnapping Narcina. Mist was like a father to him, the one who saved him, and following his orders was like having a blade to his neck. Before Mist was possessed, he sensed his fear and worry about Hansel's injury, and now he's happy Mist saw him as a son, just as he saw Mist as a father. Lost tells him that Mist isn't the only one who cares. He also considers Hansel a close friend. Hansel pulls his hand away and says he saw Lost as a brother too. That's why he tried to warn him and push him away from the city, and why he treated him harshly lately. He asks Lost to let him die, but Narcina interrupts and says he's selfish and treated Lost terribly, so he should live and face the consequences of his actions. Since death would be a mercy for him, she pushes Lost's hand back onto the wound and tells him to heal him. Lost listens to her and and heals Hansel. Afterward, he sees Marnil has stepped outside the light barrier, leading a huge group of adventurers and townspeople fighting the monsters themselves to ease the burden on Ralma. Lost tells the team they have to join them and take down the Labyrinth Lord, but he asks Narcina to stay behind. If the Lord sees her, he'll be drawn to her and want to consume her, and he won't be able to resist. She agrees and stays with Hansel. Lost asks Amarina to throw him toward the Labyrinth Lord. She does it, but the Lord sees him and drives a tree root through Lost's body. He starts bleeding and collapses. Narcina is shocked when she sees this, wanting to run to him, but doesn't want to disobey him. But Hansel tells her that if she doesn't go now, she'll regret it. She agrees and runs to Lost. When she sees how bad his wound is, she starts crying. The whole team tries to heal him, but even if he recovers, they have no way to defeat the Lord. Narcina feels responsible and says there's no choice but to let the Lord consume her. Ronaldo tells her that if the Lord eats her, it won't stop him. It'll just put him to sleep for 10 years. Narcina replies that 10 years isn't long, but it's not short either. She's sure Lost can use that time to find the real hero and bring him to defeat the monster and save the world. She makes her decision and calls out to the Labyrinth Lord. When he sees her, he can't resist and comes down to eat her. But when Lost regains consciousness and sees what's happening, his fear for Narcina triggers a power in him that makes him look like a monster. Blue flames burst from him, and he attacks the Lord like a madman. The Lord can't block any of his blows. This power is incredibly strong, something he's never seen or heard of before. Ronaldo says if Lost stays like this too long, he won't return to normal and will remain a monster forever. Narcina gets very worried and tries to stop him with words, but it doesn't work, so she runs to him and grabs his hand before he finishes off the Lord. That's when Lost remembers all his past memories and manages to return to his true self, thanks to Narcina. Lost grabs his sword, and Narcina tells him she wants to share this moment with him. They both hold the sword and finally defeat the Labyrinth Lord, not permanently, since he'll return in 200 years. Mist regains control of his body and apologizes to Narcina and Lost for everything he did. He hopes they'll forgive him before he dies. Hansel comes to say goodbye one last time and tells him he saw him as a son and is glad he's still alive. Mist dies peacefully. All the magical energy is pulled back into the labyrinth. The monsters return to their place. Ralma's mission ends and the barrier disappears. Ralma emerges safely and Ronaldo rushes to greet her. A message reaches the Emperor with everything that happened in the city. The Emperor starts paying close attention to Lost. Although everyone believes Lost is the true hero, the Emperor disagrees, because the hero isn't supposed to have the power Lost possesses. So he wonders who the real hero actually is. Hansel returns to the guild and shocks everyone by appointing Emerist as the new guild master in place of Mist. He tempts her with a salary double what Mist used to earn. She's overjoyed, and the team celebrates their victory under the leadership of the great hero Lost, after they used to call him Lost the Fool. At night, Lost talks to Narcina and tells her he wants to go on a journey to search for the great hero so they can be ready when the dragon returns. Narcina tells him she'll stay with him forever and never leave. She decided that when she was a child. If he retires, she'll retire with him. Lost is thrilled with her decision and immediately agrees that she joins him on this journey and their new adventure. Early the next morning, they pack their things and leave the inn before anyone sees them. They don't like goodbyes. But Misha and Mrs. Mary already knew they'd be leaving, so they prepare food for them to take on the road and send them off. Sheik and Lyra watch from afar as Narcina and the hero Lost begin their new adventure.